This part covers the difference between the unidirectional core excitation and the bidirectional core excitation converter, and after that the working principle of push-pull converter. So let us first of all understand the comparison between the unidirectional core excitation converter and the bidirectional core excitation converter. So with the help of BH curve of the transformer core, we can understand the meaning of unidirectional core excitation and the bidirectional core excitation. So in the converters like flyback and the forward, only the positive half of the core magnetization is utilized. Since the magnetizing current and the core flux are unidirectional. That means in the flyback and forward converter, the transformer is magnetized with the positive polarity and demagnetized from the positive polarity. So that covers only the first quadrant region of the BH curve. Therefore, the core is underutilized and the size of the core is larger than a bidirectional core for the given output power. The transformer core of the converter can be energized with the positive polarity and then de-energized from this polarity. In the next mode, the core can be energized with the opposite polarity, and after some time it would be de-energized from the reverse polarity. So this is how we can magnetize and demagnetize the transformer core with both polarities, and we can cover the entire region of the BH curve, which is the first quadrant as well as the third quadrant. So in such a manner the core is operated in the first quadrant and third quadrant, covering the entire region of the BH curve. Push pull, half bridge, and full bridge converter works on this bidirectional core excitation principle. So now let us understand the working principle of push pull converter. This is the main circuit diagram of the push pull converter. It has two controlled switch MOSFET M1 and MOSFET M2. It has an isolator element transformer, but this transformer has center tap primary and center tap secondary winding. Diode D1 and D2 for the freewheeling purpose, energy storage element inductor, for the filter purpose capacitor, and if the readily DC supply of the required magnitude is not available, then that DC can be generated using uncontrolled rectifier from the available AC. These are the waveforms of various parameters. It covers the voltage across MOSFET 1, voltage across switch 2, current passing through the switch 1, that is MOSFET 1, current through this inductor L. Because this converter has two controlled switch, the one cycle operation of this push-pull converter can be explained with the help of four modes. The first mode, when the MOSFET 1 is in the on state condition. Second interval, when both switches are in the off state condition. The third mode, when only M2 is turned on. And fourth mode, again both MOSFETs are turned off. So these are the four intervals for one cycle operation of push-pull converter. So let us understand what happens in each and every interval. Starting with the mode 1, this is the equivalent circuit diagram for mode 1. So at the instant t is equal to 0, the MOSFET M1 is turned on. Because of that, the lower primary winding gets connected to the supply voltage. The dot N terminal is connected to the positive of the supply and other terminal gets connected to the negative terminal of the supply through this MOSFET 1. So the voltage across lower primary winding is equal to supply voltage. The same polarities get reflected on upper primary winding as well as on both secondary windings because we have used the dot convention. So the voltage across upper primary winding is also same as the voltage across lower primary winding because this is center tapped. But voltage on the secondary winding can be found out by using the transformer voltage and turns ratio relationship. So we can have V2 is equal to N2 divided by N1 into supply voltage. Because of these polarities on the secondary side, you can see that because of this negative polarity, this diode D2 remains off. But here, due to the positive polarity, the diode D1 comes into the forward bias condition. So it takes part into the mode 1 operation. So on the primary side, the current starts from the positive terminal of the supply. It passes through the lower primary winding. It passes through the MOSFET and goes back to the source. This is how the closed loop path is formed on the primary side. On the secondary side, the current starts from the upper secondary. It passes through diode D1. It passes through inductor. It flows through the load, and this is how the closed loop path is formed for secondary current. During this first interval, the supply transfers the energy to the load through this transformer, diode D1 and inductor L. So here we can see that voltage across MOSFET 1 during the first interval is equal to 0. The reason it is in the on state condition, so it can be thought as a short circuit element. At the same moment, voltage across MOSFET 2 is equal to twice the supply voltage. The reason, the supply voltage and voltage across the upper primary winding, these two voltages appear across this MOSFET 2. And during the first interval, the current through switch 1 is like it gradually increases from minimum value towards the maximum value. The reason, the transformer is inductive in nature. And the current flowing through the inductor L gradually increases from minimum value towards the maximum value when MOSFET 1 is on, which means that during the first interval this inductor stores the energy coming from the supply through this core and the diode D1. When the MOSFET M1 is turned off, at that time mode 2 operation begins. In the second interval, M1 and M2 both are off. So there is no current flow on the primary side because there is no closed loop path is created on the primary side. But we know that as the switching action takes place, the polarity across inductive element get reversed. So here the right side terminal has become positive and the left side terminal has become negative. Because of that, this diode D1 and D2, both diodes will come into the operation. Inductor starts its releasing energy into the load via this freewheeling diode D1 and D2. So the current starts from this positive terminal of inductor, it passes through the load, it reaches at this center point on the secondary side. The current gets split into two equal halves. The first half will flow through the upper secondary winding and the second half will flow through the lower secondary winding through this diode D2, and both currents will meet at this junction, and finally that current goes to the L. And this is how the closed loop path is created during second mode for releasing the energy of inductor into the load. So during the second interval, the voltage drop takes place across MOSFET 1 and MOSFET 2, both are same as the supply voltage. In the second interval, because the MOSFET 1 is in the offset condition, so there is no current flow through switch 1. And during the second interval, as I explained, inductor releases its energy into the load with the help of D1 and D2. Current gradually reduces from the maximum value towards the minimum value. So here you can see that during the first interval, the transformer core is magnetized with the positive polarity, and in the second interval, the transformer core is demagnetized from that polarity. Now in the third mode, when the MOSFET 2 will be turned on, at that time, the transformer will be magnetized with the reverse polarity. So when M2 is turned on and M1 is kept off, the mode 3 operation begins. The upper primary winding gets connected to the supply, but this time the dot end terminal of the winding is connected to the negative terminal of the supply through this MOSFET 2, and the other terminal gets connected to the positive terminal of the supply. So here the transformer gets opposite polarity. Dot end is negative and other terminal is positive, which means the core is magnetized with the reverse polarity. The same polarities get reflected on the lower primary as well as on both secondary windings. Because of that, diode D2 comes into the conduction mode and diode D1 remains off. So on the primary side, the current starts from the supply and it passes through the upper primary winding, it flows through the M2 and it goes back to the source. So this is how the closed loop path is provided on the primary side. On the secondary side, from this lower secondary, the current begins to flow. It passes through the diode D2, then it flows through the inductor, thereafter it passes through the load, and this is how it goes back to the L. And the closed loop path on the secondary side is provided. So in this interval, the load gets energy from the supply through the transformer, diode D2 and inductor L. In the second interval, the inductor has released its energy into the load. So in mode 3, it begins to store energy coming from the supply. So if we observe the waveform in the interval 3, when the MOSFET 2 is in the on state condition, the current flowing through the inductor rises gradually from minimum value towards the maximum value, right? And as you can see that MOSFET 2 is in the on state condition, so current through the MOSFET also increases from some minimum value towards the maximum value, because MOSFET 2 is connected in series with the transformer winding. M2 is on, so it can be considered as a short circuit element, so the voltage across M2 is equal to 0, but voltage across MOSFET 1, which is in the off state condition, is equal to twice the supply voltage. The operation in the mode 4 is exactly same as operation of mode 2. That is, whatever energy is stored by this inductor L, that energy gets released into the load via this freewheeling diode D1 and D2. So going from mode 3 to mode 4 operation, as the switching action has taken place, the polarity across inductor get reversed. So on the right hand side terminal has become positive and the left side terminal is negative. So current starts from this positive terminal of inductor, it flows through the load, it reaches at the center point of the secondary winding. The current gets divided into two equal parts. The first part would flow through the upper secondary winding. It passes through diode D1 and it reaches at this junction. The second half of the current will flow through the lower secondary winding. It passes through this diode D2 and it reaches the same junction. After meeting these two currents, the final current will reach to the inductor, and in this interval the inductor provides energy to the load. Because of that, in the fourth interval the current through inductor decreases from maximum value to the minimum value, and during the mode 4 both switches are off, so there is no current flow through the switch. Voltage across M2 switch and voltage across M1, when both are off, the voltage appear across these both switch is same as the supply voltage. So these are the four modes of push-pull converter. Right, so in mode 3 and mode 4 we can see that transformer core is magnetized with the reverse polarity, and in mode 4 the transformer core is demagnetized from the reverse polarity. So this is how the first quadrant as well as the third quadrant of the BH curve is covered by push-pull converter. Mode 1, magnetization of the transformer in the first quadrant. Mode 2, demagnetization of the transformer core from the first quadrant. Mode 3, magnetization of the transformer core in the third quadrant. And in mode 4, demagnetization of the transformer from the third quadrant. Let's have a glance at the applications of the push-pull converter. The push-pull converters can be used in the applications where the power requirement is between 100 to 500 watts. It can be used in the telecommunication supplies. Apart from that, push-pull converter is used in automobiles. Advantages of push-pull converter: it includes the very compact design of the transformer and filter, no need of reset winding, unlike the forward converter where the third winding, tertiary winding is required, but here there is no such case. very low ripples in output. Output has very lower ripples, and because of that the design of the filter becomes easy. Due to two quadrant operation, the utilization of the transformer core is full. For same power handling capability, the size of the transformer core reduces. Disadvantages of push-pull converter include each switching device must block the twice the input voltage. So from the waveform, you may get idea that maximum amount of voltage appear across the MOSFET when it is in the offset condition is 2 times the supply voltage, and that is the major drawback of the push-pull converter. Good coupling between two halves of winding which stops the core to go in saturation region due to flux imbalance. It states that good coupling between the two halves of the winding, center taping on the primary side as well as on the secondary side should be as much perfect as possible. Otherwise, what happens if there is any imbalance on primary or on secondary? This BH curve may get shifted more towards the first quadrant or more towards the third quadrant. So it may happen that transformer core may go into the saturation region either in the first quadrant or in the third quadrant. So in order to prevent the saturation of the transformer, one has to make sure that proper center taping on the primary as well as on the secondary side should be done.